Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today's video, I want to talk to you about the big volcano that went off a few days ago. You know, the one that, they're saying is one of the largest natural events, most catastrophic natural events in modern history, and yet no one seems to be talking about it. Not just no one in the mainstream news. I mean, they talked about it when it happened, but then it's been just, crickets since then. But hardly anyone in the alternative news. In fact, I had a real hard time finding any information about it, even on the usual sources that folks like you and I look for on the internet, and YouTube and places like that. There just wasn't a lot. So I want to talk to you about that. Not really so much from a scientific perspective because, well, I'm a hillbilly, I'm not a scientist, but look at it from what we know has happened, what we've been talking about that's probably going to happen, that is happening, and then how to prepare for that. And so maybe I can have a little bit of a different outlook on what's going on. A lot of the information I'm getting, there's a few people on Twitter, scientists and people like that, and then there's Adapt 2030. A lot of you know who that is. It's a big YouTube channel, and he's about the only one out there that's really putting out good information. There was another guy I stumbled across, has a background in astronomy and physics, and I'll post a link to his video also on it. But other than that, there's just not a lot of information, and I honestly, I haven't figured out why. I'm not going so far to say that it's a conspiracy. I just think that a lot of people aren't quite getting it, and maybe I'm the one that's off. But from everything that I'm reading, all the data that I'm seeing, this is a big deal, and it's something that not only the event itself is a big deal, but it kind of backs up what we've been saying for a while and what is yet to come when it comes to grand solar minimum. The pole shifting, the possibility of a pole shifting. They're definitely in movement and in flux right now. And then the whole magnetic field around the earth, how that has been weakening. It's all connected, and I think that this volcano is definitely indicative of all those things, and we'll get into that also. Before I get started, I want to mention a particular company. This is a family friend. This isn't a lot, few of the places that I mention on here, they're just big companies, and this one is different. I'm really doing this because number one, I believe in the product. I've tried it, and my wife has tried it, and it's really good. But also because this is a good person, a good friend of ours, and I think all of us, when we're able to, should try to put our money towards businesses that are like-minded instead of the big box superstores. And this company, it's called Faithfield and she makes hand makes out of natural, good, clean products, stuff for skin and stuff to bathe with and stuff for hair and stuff. And she even has some men's products. This is a beard oil that is really, really good, and a beard balm for you guys like me that have a beard. I don't really use a lot of stuff on my beard other than just soap and water, but occasionally, especially in this weather, the beard starts to get pretty dry. And I've never been a fan of beard balm because it's just goopy and sticky, but man, this stuff is different. I don't know what she does to it, but it's all handcrafted, and it's really good stuff. There's a link down in the description below, faithfieldessentials.com. Yes, she is a very like-minded individual, a believer, and producing some really good products. So if you're looking for that kind of stuff, isn't it better to spend your money on at a company, at a small family business, as opposed to these big stores that your money's just going to support woke agendas and stuff. All right, so a couple of days ago, I'm sure you're all aware of this, there was this huge, massive volcanic eruption in the Pacific Ocean, the South Pacific, and it's over the island chain Tonga. And you've probably seen the video clip here that I'm showing. It's become kind of famous now, people seeing that, where the massive explosion of the volcano. And so that part of it's been talked about a lot, but not too many people are talking about are there any long-term possibility effects of this? Is this gonna do any damage? You're talking about how huge and catastrophic this eruption was, how much energy it put out. Well, what's the long-term effects? And that's kind of what we want to talk about. For starters, And again, I'm just a hillbilly, but some of the evidence is showing that the plume, the cloud of ash, it reached almost 100,000 feet. Around 98,000 feet is what they're saying. Now that's pretty massive. You know, I'm not a you know, scientist here, but that's a big explosion. If you do some measurements on just the plumes, the videos that are out there, the initial explosion out of it was somewhere around 325 miles in diameter. I mean, think about that for a moment. I want to show you this video here, and I don't want to get into, well, that's fake and all that. I don't know. But it does, you know, the resources are stating that this is true. I know a lot of stuff about space that gets some of my viewers a little feathers ruffled. This is a video from the International Space Station as it flew over it, you know, after the initial explosion. And this is a video of the ash cloud. And this ash cloud is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 miles long. 1,200 miles. That's like driving from LA to Oklahoma. 1,200 miles, folks. That's a big cloud. Imagine a cloud covering nearly all of the southwest of the United States. That would be this one. This is massive. So there's some video here as the eruption happened. If you look at all the red and the yellow, it almost looks like sparkles. Okay, each one of those little sparkles, little lights. Those are all lightning strikes. They say that there was over 100,000 lightning strikes when this thing exploded and when it erupted. Now, that's a big deal, so keep that in mind. Remember that. There's warnings, especially Adapt 2030. He's really put out a good video. I really encourage you to go and watch that particular video that he's most recently put out about this eruption. He did some excellent work on it. He's saying, based on the math and everything, that Northern Australia looks like they're going to get quite a bit of ashfall from this. There's already some scientists saying that this could be big enough to, you know, slightly alter the Earth's temperature, maybe by even 1/3 of a degree. Now, there's all this going on, you know, all this talk, not a lot, but what I've mentioned and a little bit more. But how does this fit with the grand solar minimum and the stuff that we've talked about? Actually, it backs it up perfectly, because this past year, over the past 12, 13 months, we have experienced more than normal, above average amounts of volcanic eruptions on the planet. But the big thing is we've had some really big volcanic eruptions in the past few months. Now, I've been following the whole grand solar minimum for a few years now. And one of the things that I have read about, read from alternative views or scientists that disagree with the grand solar minimum theories, is that they say that if you go back where previous grand solar minimums happened, that it wasn't so much the grand solar minimum that caused, you know, Earth's temperatures and seasonal changes to happen. It was because there just happened to be several or a few large volcanic eruptions at the time, and that is what really caused a cooling down of the Earth and things like that. And so there's, you know, I've read a few articles stating that it wasn't so much the grand solar minimum, it was the volcanic eruptions. And what they don't realize is it was the grand solar minimum that was causing the volcanic eruptions that eventually led to cooling of the Earth's temperatures. You see, what's happening is because the sun is going through its kind of a little bit of a cooling cycle, there's a lot more electrically charged photons, and I could be getting some of the terminology wrong because it's just my hillbilly ease, you know, that's entering the Earth, okay? And so because of that, it's causing the Earth itself to become more charged than normal. And so it's this building of energy. It's kind of like, you know, taking a battery and overcharging it. And when you overcharge it, that energy has to go somewhere, and so it discharges the energy. And the discharge is in the form of volcanic eruptions and also sometimes earthquakes, which is something else that we've had a lot of, and a lot of really big earthquakes over the past 12, 13 months. And so You know, there was the one in the Philippines. There was another one a month or two ago here in the Tonga, the same place that this most recent one happened. There's been quite a bit of volcanic activity and earthquake activity up in Iceland over the past year. There's just been a lot, folks. You know, over there, La Palma, there's just been a lot of really big ones too. And so, number one, it's showing that, well, there are a lot of volcanic eruptions happening along with this grand solar minimum. And it's quite possible that they are also contributing and will contribute to a changing of our weather patterns, changing of Earth's temperatures, changing of growing seasons, which is something that we're starting to see. Now, going back to that video that I showed where it erupted and it was all those little sparkles and those were lightning strikes, that right there is also very indicative of the amount of electrical energy that was being discharged as this volcano erupted. So again, not an expert, but from everything that I'm reading from experts, they're saying that this is showing that there was a lot of electrical energy being discharged from this, much more than normal. This thing is extremely massive, and I think only because of the location where it's at. It's in a very isolated part of the ocean, not a lot around. As of yet, we're not even have heard of any casualties. It was of any of the surrounding islands. There's been just about a media blackout because of the damage from the volcanic eruption. It's knocked out cell service and internet and stuff in some of the nearby islands. But the word that we've heard so far is that there wasn't any there. It did look like that there was some casualties due to the tsunami that happened, I think, over in Chile or something like that. And there was a tsunami. I mean, this tsunami went all the way up into Alaska. And along with that tsunami, and it wasn't a big one, I get it. The west coast of California there, they felt it. They got some flooding in there. Japan, the Philippines. And then the explosion. This is another thing. There's reports all the way in Alaska. Now, this is in the South Pacific area. And Alaska, for those of you that don't remember geography too well, Alaska is all the way in the north. And they heard the explosion of the volcanic eruption all the way in Alaska. The shock wave, which is another thing that's being reported a lot, and you can see that in satellite imagery, is the shock wave being blasted out from this volcanic eruption. It basically completely went around the planet. Here's the United States, a map of the United States, weather maps, and these all the little dots as you see, those are all weather stations that measure barometric pressure, which would be measuring the shock wave as it passed through the pressure. It would be a pressure spikes, and it's kind of faint, but you can see starting from the west coast, southwest, and moving all the way across to the northeast, those weather stations firing off, showing a very rapid change in pressure. So that shock wave went all across the United States. It went all over the world. They registered it in Iceland, in the United Kingdom, everywhere. So there's just more and more evidence showing that this thing was massive. This thing was huge, and we're not hearing much about it. Why? I don't know. I don't want to go too conspiracy theory path down on this video. It's very possible that they just don't want people to know and freak out. I think Western society is so conditioned from Hollywood movies that we think that when something, especially a natural occurrence, that if it's on the level of catastrophic, we think that it should be affecting us immediately, say like an asteroid strike. But that's not necessarily true. Something of this magnitude could affect us, but maybe not immediately. It could affect us down the road, come the planting season, it could affect us. And what it's indicating is that there's probably going to be a lot more of this. These have been building over the past year, and everything with solar cycle 25, the grand solar minimum, indicates that this kind of activity of increased volcanic eruptions and major volcanic eruptions, that we're going to see that. And Adapt 2030 mentions in his video, and I've seen it in a few other places, and I believe he's correct, that probably from now through May, the odds are we're going to see a few more of these really big eruptions. And the more that happen, the more it's going to play havoc on our planet, on our temperatures and our growing seasons. And so folks, this is what I've been telling you for a while with this grand solar minimum, is to get ready for it. This is why we plant. You factor in this, what I've talked about today, and the potential repercussions of it, and then what I talked about in yesterday's video with the increased fertilizer prices and the shortages and the supply chain and the worker shortage and rapidly increasing inflation. And then ask yourself if you should stock up on food. Ask yourself if you should be growing food. Ask yourself if you should, be saving seeds and raising some meat animals and things like that. Yeah, I think you should. This isn't a doomsday thing. It's just, folks, we got to get ready because it's happening. It is happening. It's not a what if. It is happening. Get your houses in order, folks. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.